Just for housekeeping items, this will be recorded. So if you got to jump early, we'll go ahead and send that recording off to you. Also, we're going to keep this really interactive. If you haven't been on a webinar with Woody and I, really like that audience participation. Because to be honest with you, it's not very interesting, just the two of us talking to each other. So get familiar with your Zoom controls. Down at the bottom, there's going to be a spot for a chat, a spot for Q&A. In there as well, and we'll also be putting up some poll questions. But to kick this off today, we're going to be talking about a couple different things here. The big one is keeping and retaining talent. Woody, I know this is something near and dear to your heart. So before we get into the introductions, do you sort of want to touch on what we had up?
Sure. Well, Justin, and I know you understand this, and I'm sure probably everybody that's on this webinar understands, great talent doesn't grow on trees. We've got to find them. We've got to nurture them. We've got to make sure that they're part of the team, make sure that they understand our vision and are part of that vision. We got to communicate clearly on a regular basis, not just about the company, but about them and what they do and how they fit into the company and how important it is for them to be part of our team. And I think if we can create a culture like that, something that's open and honest and focused on everybody in the entire team, I think we have a great opportunity to really build something special. I'm sure we've got lots of companies like that already part of the BuildOps family. That all being said, there's lots of companies out there that probably could use some help. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is some of the common sense things that we all need to focus on and move forward with when we're trying to hold on to that talent. Because I don't know about anybody else, but I haven't talked to a mechanical contractor, and I just came back from the Mechanical Service Contractors of America, MSCA's conference, and to a man and a lady, every single person that was there is just looking for talent. And that's the big concern nowadays, is holding on to that talent and recruiting that new talent to get on board.
Yeah, absolutely, Woody. That's a really great point. And for the folks who, for the couple people who don't know you already, tell a little bit about your background, because I think it's real important, to the topic we're discussing today.
Sure. So I went through my apprenticeship. I'm a member of Steamfitters Local 602 in Washington, D.C. I was an instructor for the apprentices for 12 years, been in the industry for over 47 years now, served locally on lots of different boards and things like that. I was honored to be the national chairman of MSCA, and even more honored to receive the Spence O'Brien Award. That all being said, Justin and everybody out there, I've had a chance to work with the best and the brightest in the industry, and I've seen some of the tremendous things that people have done to ignite and really fire up their teams and build their teams properly. And at the same time, I've seen some of the things that haven't worked so well. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is some of the things that I've seen out there and that have worked, and some of the things that maybe not have worked as well.
Yeah, great points there. And really we need to adjust the slide deck, because given my intro after giving your intro, that's like putting on the band after the Beatles play, you know what I mean? So that said, guys, much like Woody in his background, I've had that same opportunity to work with a lot of different contractors across the country. That's one thing that's been real unique, I think, with Woody and I's experience, is in the positions we've been in. Not only have we run our own work and run our own business and our tradesmen ourselves, but we've been able to work with thousands of contractors across the country. And again, you start seeing themes over with your time with folks. And number one thing, Woody, that I hear out there as well is we need talent. We got to get that talent out there. So I'm just curious. For any folks who got questions, keep in mind that we got the Q&A section down below. So at any point, if you got questions, hit that. Also hit the chat, and get your mouses ready as well, because we got some poll questions in here as we go through the presentation that we'll be throwing out as well.
There's lots of different reasons why people leave, decide to move on. some for opportunities that maybe they don't have at the company they're at right now. But was a list that I found that currently there's lots of different reasons, like I said, but lack of opportunity or a clear growth plan, and that's probably, we're going to talk about those growth plans a little bit later on. Poor management, leadership. If you don't have somebody who has got the best interest of their people at heart, who doesn't show that on a regular basis, it's hard to stay excited about what you're doing. A toxic work environment, or a culture, one of those places that have those little cliques that those 5 people kind of hang together, and they do their thing, and they're not quick to share and not quick to be part of the team, and it's not always conducive to growing a company and growing a culture. Not enough work or too much work. Folks leave for money. Let's face it, it happens. But the interesting part about it is money is way down that scale. That's not the main reason why people usually leave. These other things above it and below it are a lot of reasons why people leave. Lack of recognition for their contributions, or poor communication. And when I say lack of recognition, is 9 times out of 10, you can give, and I've seen companies that have put, not bounties, but if you bring a job in under budget and under the time allotted, a lot of companies will reward their employees with some dollar figure of some sort. The fact of the matter is, most cases, all those people would like is somebody up in the upper echelon of the company to be able to, pat them on the back and say, "Man, thanks a lot for all your hard work. We appreciate everything you've done. It's made a difference in our company. It's made a difference in our culture. It's huge."
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest ones, is that recognition, and it doesn't, the spend on that recognition, if it's going to be monetary, it pays back exponentially, right?
Absolutely.
And it's not so much how many zeros are at the end of that, at the end of that consideration, but just the fact that they were recognized,
Yeah,
is a big deal, in there as well. That's a great point.
absolutely. Few of the other reasons why people may decide to change or move on. If a company is not flexible enough to accommodate their lifestyle of some sort, and let's face it, as we're working in this environment nowadays, we have four different levels of people. We've got the baby boomers and the Xers and the Zers and the all of the different names that we have for those folks. And we have to be able to understand what is important to all of those groups. And sometimes we're not as flexible as we should be. Maybe we don't give the feedback on a regular basis the way we should about how we're doing, or what we should be doing better, or what's going to happen moving down the line if we continue to act in a certain way. Resources is huge. And Justin, you and I talked about the lack of resources, or not having the resources that are available, for our technicians, our dispatchers, our salespeople, all of those folks. Work-life balance is huge. It's one of the things that, let's face it, people have families, and they have people that they love dearly, and they want to be around those folks, and they want to be engaged in those moments that are important to their families. And so we have to make sure that we are able to help them have that work-life balance that really means something to them. Some folks are relocating to a different area, and God bless them. I hope they do well and they move on. And then another reason is, maybe a company doesn't have a clear vision. Justin, I can't tell you, ladies and gentlemen, how many times I've spoke in different areas or companies, and one of the first things I always ask is, what are your core values? What's your mission statement? What's your vision for your company? that you work for. Most of these folks are either technicians or project managers or service managers, whatever that might be. Probably maybe 10 or 15% of the folks that attend these classes don't 10 or 15% know what their core values are, mission statement, and vision is. That means we're looking at 85% of a lot of companies that have no idea what the company vision is, focus, core values, and if they don't know, you can bet your bottom dollar that the rest of the folks don't know either. So if we're not talking about those things on a regular basis, we're not sharing with the company or with the employees what we really want to get across and what we really want to become.
Yeah, and I mean for the folks here today whose companies do have clear, concise, articulable mission statements, if you don't mind, throw those in the Q&A section or in the chat section below, because to Woody's point, not everybody on the call has some of these, and so we'd like to provide some ideas here to the larger group. So use those Zoom controls down there at the bottom. Either throw it in the chat or the Q&A section. Either way, it'll come up to us, and we'll start sharing those out with the team. Obviously, we'll keep it anonymous, but just give an idea for some of the folks that don't have that stuff out there. And you mentioned work-life balance, and one thing that I think gets missed a lot is bringing some of that some of your outside life into the workplace. One thing that I've seen be really effective is the bring your kid to work day. Yeah,
Right.
Look, is it going to be a productive day? No, it's not going to be a super productive day, but you're bringing you're bringing your family into your work family. One thing that my grandmother did, she ran a successful property management company, single mother of three, started this property management company on her own, worked this thing from the ground up, and to sort of a staple down here in Southern California. And one thing that she did every single year was she put on a company picnic. And now I have never worked at another place or really actually heard of many places doing that. I think it's kind of like maybe a more old school thing to do, but once a year on a Saturday, they rent out a park. Right, it's not a lot of money. They get some somebody come in, cater some burgers and hot dogs, set up a cornhole court or a volleyball court, something like that. Everybody comes in, they do the egg toss, they do the water balloon toss. So there's all, sack races, all of that sort of stuff. And that's one way of, when you think of work-life balance, you think of like, I don't want to work too much because I got a life. But the other side of that is bring that family kind of into the organization, embrace them, embrace their families, because I think that goes a long way.
Justin, you're 100% right. It makes a ton of difference when everybody's invested and understands what BuildOps is all about. And as we get into this slide deck, we'll talk about some of that type of stuff specifically. Some of the things that we could do that would help out tremendously.
Yep. And I want to share a couple of the mission statements or core values that some of the attendees have shared kind of with the group.
Sure.
I'm going to go with some of the shorter ones here. What I really like, Maria says, committed, connected, capable, and champions. Right. I definitely like that. That's definitely a big one. Oh, and that's actually cool. It looks like a couple folks had something pretty similar in there. Obviously tied to your business and sort of what your business is doing. Control your building's environment and operating costs with our expertise. That's, I'm going to guess that's probably one of our HVAC or control contractors out there. And, very clear on what you guys, do and how you're doing it different from other folks out there. So keep those coming in. I'll continue to share those as we're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that we've talked about is laying the groundwork, the bedrock for creating that positive, focused, and fun culture. And that's sort of what we're going to talk about as we move through some of these slides, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just a quick checklist, and I'm interested in, we're going to have a little poll question after this. How many of you guys have sort of a plan that you work with on a regular basis as far as staying in touch with your teams? How many people walk through the hallways and greet their teams on a regular basis? How many people talk to them about their families, what's important to them, how their son or grandson or whoever is doing well in school, or what they're up to? Congratulate the teams when when a job goes well, and I don't mean by just congratulating the people that made that job go well. Let's have a celebration of some sort for the whole team. Let's get it out there so everybody knows about the great job that people have done. Celebrate wins. We celebrate any sort of positive focus thing that happens whenever we get a letter from a client that says we've done a great job. We got to make sure that we share those types of things. Special days like birthdays and anniversaries. When the weather changes and when we go from spring to summer and summer to fall and all of those things, that's a great reason to celebrate. Just find ways to celebrate as a team so that everybody has a chance to really get out there and understand what's going on. I'm a firm believer that every time you talk to your team as a group, all hands meetings, meetings at the end of the year, or whatever it may be, educational programs, you should be talking about your company mission, core values, and what really your focus is every single time. Because the more everybody in the team hears that, the more you're reinforcing to them that, hey, I'm on the right path. I'm doing the things that I should be doing. I love this, and that's I think is key to keeping the group as a team and everybody focused on pulling the rope in the same direction.
One thing that came up in the chat that I kind of want to call out, one of our attendees today, one of our companies today, they maintain a kids playroom in the office, right?
That's
So
spectacular.
That's something that I think is really cool that I saw pop up in there, Woody, because when you're able to have that little bit of flexibility, right? You talked about that, just a little bit of extra flexibility, like, hey, I had to pick up the kids early, but I still got work to do. It's okay. Hey, we'll drop them off, in the playroom in
Yeah.
there. They can, play blocks, play with the new toys and stuff. I get a couple extra hours of work done, then I can go ahead and get this kiddo home, get him fed, get him, bathed and in bed. So I really like that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Clear, meaningful communication is so important to what we do on a regular basis. If we as leaders or managers don't share with our teams what's important to the company, how in the world are they ever going to know what they should be focused on? But included in that is us learning from our employees, our friends, our coworkers, our teammates, what's important to them, who's important to them, and to be able to talk about those types of things. And then more than anything, what they mean to the team and what they're focused on as far as the team is concerned. And what are some of the challenges they have? You find out that maybe one of your workers is going through a breakup, and maybe he or she is a single parent for a week or a weekend or whatever it might be. What are some of those types of challenges that they're running up against? And you might be able to find a way to help them to mitigate some of those challenges. All that type of personal interaction, that type of personal focus goes a long, long way. People will remember you for what you do to try to help them. And if we can find ways to help folks through some of these challenging times, it'll pay back tenfold.
Yeah, agreed. Got to remember that at the end of the day, these are all people, right? And honestly, people are your most valuable resource.
Absolutely. The other thing that we as leaders and managers, co-workers, we need to ask our team for feedback. How are we doing for you? What are some of the things that I could do better? How can I be a better manager or leader or whatever your position might be. Um, what are some of the things that would make a difference in your life out there as you're doing your job as a dispatcher or a technician or a salesperson or an accountant? Is there something there that can make your life easier or quicker or better? One of the things that we're finding more and more is, there are a lot of companies that are still out there that are still using pen and paper as far as service tickets and paperwork and things like that. Just the simple act of bringing some sort of automation in that would help your dispatchers dispatch people quicker, smarter, faster, better. Some way that your technicians could close out a service call. Justin and I were talking just before we went on air, talking a little bit. I was at that conference I was telling you about. I was talking to a person who had a company, and he was in the process of looking for a new piece of software. And one of the things he said was they did a study, and they found out that their technicians went through over 40 strokes, keystrokes, before they could close out a service ticket for a client. That is frustrating to a technician because the technicians are looking for opportunities to fix things and to help our clients out. And if we tie them up for 15, 20 minutes in trying to close out a ticket on a piece of software, we're missing the boat. The other thing, as we're looking for that feedback, is ask their opinion. How do you think we should go about choosing this piece of software? How do you think we should go about taking care of this challenge over with this client? Or is there a tool out there that we could use that would be better off? And the biggest question I always like to ask is, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? As you advance through what you're doing for us now, where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 2 years? And how can I help you get there? That's a huge piece of how we keep everybody engaged with what we're trying to get accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a really good point there. I was just on site yesterday, working with a company, and you could see sort of the burnout, honestly, on their team's face because of some of the antiquated processes and softwares or lack of softwares, that they had. They were explaining to us, that to go from like call to close, they had to re-enter the customer information like 7 times manually, copy and paste it here, type it into there, add it to this, and trying to stretch that whole thing together. I think it's a really, something that's really valuable that BuildOps brings to the table, because each and every one of these employees wants to do good work, and benefit their customers and their company. And when you feel like there's sort of roadblocks, or you don't have the resources in place to get that done, it leads to burnout. And eventually you're going to move on, and you're going to lose a lot of your good people, just because they didn't have the tools to be the best that they could be, right? And we'll chat a little more about the product. I know a lot of the folks in the room today are already BuildOps customers or and real
Sure.
familiar with that, but we'll be sure to kind of slip in little pieces of it. And I guess now is as good a time as any, kind of slip in a little bit of it. Talking about the dispatch board, number one, just have understanding of where your guys are, where should they be, what jobs are close to them. One thing that a technician kind of hates is hearing that he crisscrossed with another technician and they're all just putting extra windshield time in. So your technicians don't want to drive. That's not where their passion is. And well, what do you mean? I was there and you were there. That just burns them out as well. So being able to understand that, geographically where your techs are, where your jobs are, and then from a scheduling point of view, understanding how we can more efficiently route their day. And BuildOps has some new smart dispatch tools coming out that'll help automate some of this. But just being able to visualize it, number one, and I'm not re-entering in the information. I can go all the way from a quote to an invoice, right, and all the steps in between for approval, dispatch, completion. And I never have to put in the customer information except that first time, and that's
Yep.
it. And the scope of work. that transitions over to the technician. You know what I mean? And the billing information and how it's supposed to be billed transitions over to the accounting team. So, something really helpful to be able to take keep track of the work that you're either quoting or the time and material work,
Yeah.
because those technicians want your technicians and your other employees, they want to be the best that they can be, and a lot of times giving them some transparency really helps them achieve that. So appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, and the goofy part about all of this is it's sometimes something that we don't even think about. A simple resource like the ability to be able to do their job better. Sometimes we're just looking for grandiose ideas when it can be something very simple and succinct, and sort of the low hanging fruit there, how we can help our people to be more engaged and more happy about what they do for us on a regular basis. Creating that career plan, like I had talked about earlier, Justin, is a huge piece of what we always tried to do. We always wanted to make sure that we talked about that career plan, especially during any sort of review of some sort. But also in between those reviews, we want to talk about to them, how are we doing with whatever your career plan might be. We need to take the time, and I know that's hard because I know we're all as busy can be, but we need to take the time to really get to know each person and understand what their goals and aims are in life. We need to talk to them about where they are in their plan, what do they need from us to help them get through all of those types of things. Help them set some time frames for their goals, because if you don't do that, and if we don't bring it up from time to time and talk to them about it, sort of out of sight, out of mind, and people sort of forget about those types of things. Monitor and measure where they are and where your team is going to be, and by doing that, we can sort of create a game plan as to how many more technicians we need, how many more dispatchers we need, how many more salespeople we need, and what do we need to do to focus in on getting the people that we have up and running at a higher level, and then bring our new folks in. It would be a shame to lose a great asset because we didn't realize that they really wanted to do something different. And if we don't take the time to talk to them and understand what their challenges are and where they're focused, boy, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be kicking ourselves in the butt for a long time if we don't take the time to really focus in on them and what's important to them. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, Woody, that one hits deep actually, because I ran into that early on in my career when I was managing folks. And I had well, one individual, he was a rock star, right? He was great at what he did. And he told me, I don't want to keep doing this, right? But I'm
Yeah.
like, you're so good at what you do. You got to keep doing it. Like you're the
Right.
best.
Right.
And eventually he got burnt out, and ultimately we were able to keep him with the organization, but you know that transition for him wasn't as smooth as I could have made it for him, right? So that
Yeah.
kind of hit home for me there.
I,
Personally, understand what they want, and how they want to grow in their career.
yeah.
Corey had a good question here. I don't think Woody or I try to claim ourselves as being HR experts, but Corey asked, hey, should these conversations and should these plans be documented? Absolutely, these things should be documented, and once a year, sort of a review of the plan, where we're headed and how we're progressing against our plan. Once a year is the bare minimum. Bare minimum.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that done quarterly. I know that's not always possible, at least twice a year. The once a year thing is literally the bare minimum, and doesn't really give you all the juice that you can get for the squeeze if you had a little more cadence with that. And so, Corey, yeah, absolutely have that documented, so
Yeah.
so that you guys can refer back to that plan as we're going through.
And Justin, in my mind, I almost would like to see people on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
at the very least, having conversations. And these aren't official write down document conversations. Just have conversations about where they are, what they need, how can we help them do whatever they're doing, and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's important to be able to do those kinds of things. I really do.
Yep. Agreed.
Um, for our folks in the field, if we can make it just a little bit easier for them to do their job, if we can give them one or two little pieces, little resources, maybe the ability to pull up an exploded diagram pretty easily on their smart tool, or just the ability, Justin, like you said, not to be crisscrossing with another coworker because you're sent to where he was and he's sent to where you were. And I know it's important to get the right person on the right job at the right time. But sometimes we don't even give it a thought, and we've got guys running willy-nilly all over the place. So we need to be able to track their resources. We need to be able to track their success, know how they're handling the challenges of the job, and know how they can overcome those challenges, help them overcome those challenges as we're moving through this process. For our sales team, it's very simple. Most of the salespeople I know want two things. They want to be able to take care of their clients, and they want to be able to provide for their clients that great customer service that's happening. And rightfully so, they get upset when that doesn't happen. How come I didn't know we were having a problem with chiller number one over building 3? How come I didn't know that the boiler was down on a biochem facility? All of those things are things that salespeople want to keep in touch with, and if we have the right resources for them to do that, it goes a long, long way for them staying with us and focusing on what's happening. Our salespeople want to get that pricing out to our clients as quickly as possible. Most of our salespeople have that sense of urgency, and we need to make sure they have the tools to be able to get that type of thing out and taken care of. And then, of course, in operations, the tools that our operations people need are very simple. The ability to be able to pull up and look at reports that are telling us what our KPIs are, number one. Number two, are we making money with this particular client, and are we doing what we're supposed to be doing for that client? But also, how can we move our technicians from point A to point B in the fastest, most expeditious manner possible? How can we track all of the customer's needs? How can we track all of the things that we know about the customer? Like, what's important to them? What level are they at? Who are the people above them and below them, and to the left and to the right, as far as our customers' building is concerned? All of those things we have to be able to track and understand what's going on with all of those things. Because if we don't, somebody's going to come up behind us, and they're going to be the ones that track that kind of stuff, and it's going to make a world of difference. We're going to lose some people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as far as providing good customer service, right? It's what every salesperson, every service manager wants to do. A huge part of that is understanding, to your point, what are the needs of the customer, and BuildOps does have a great tool for helping capture that. That I think it kind of lends itself to this conversation. As a technician out in the field, using my mobile device, let's say I'm doing a preventative maintenance, I notice the blower motor's going bad, or there's some other repair that needs to be done that's not covered by that preventative maintenance, or for whatever reason we're out there and basically we have recommendations, right? And out in the field, my technician can easily and quickly record these recommendations, have the appropriate person alerted to these in the back office so that they can quickly and easily convert these recommendations into quoted work, So that way we're able to communicate effectively between the field and the office, and then also, between our company and our customers. Being able to get this stuff quoted quickly, get it out to them, and they're going to appreciate that we were looking out for them. Because, even though, they got their, now got a quote that needs to be taken care of. Had we not brought that to their attention, and that part failed, that might have impacted and brought down their business for hours, if not days. And that cost is much higher to the customer, than the repair would ever be. So I think that's one great tool that goes into it, as well as, understanding you can't effectively manage what you can't measure.
Yeah,
So having a great reporting engine built into your operational platform, I think it's super helpful, not just on the sales side, but on the operation side as well.
yeah,
Understanding, what type of work we're winning, what type of work we're losing, and being able to configure this sort of to the needs of the individual and the needs of the company, I think can provide a lot of great resources, for the team, which again will kind of keep them, sort of keep them in the loop on this sort of stuff. Um,
Justin, that's what our clients pay us to do. We're their eyes and ears in their machine rooms, and they're on their mechanical equipment and with their electrical equipment. They have asked us to come in and take care of that for them. If we don't bring those things to their attention in a timely manner, we're not doing them justice, and we're not doing what we should be doing. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you get the whole team involved in this, right? It's that you get the most production when everybody's marching in the same direction. And a great way to get people marching in the same direction is to bring them in early on in that process, and start getting buy-in, from the team on any sort of process changes y'all might be making.
Absolutely. What I always like to do, and some of the great managers that I've worked for and around, they always create little subgroups, little small folks within the company that would attack things like, hey, how do we reduce costs on energy as far as fuel is concerned? How do we overcome the challenge of the tools that we're purchasing? How can we do a smarter job of doing that? What's the best way to get our best bang for the buck on our consumables? All of those types of things lend itself tremendously to the entire team. Put together a 4 or 5 person subcommittee that would really do a deep dive into what would be the best way to handle these challenges and how to go after those challenges. And then once you've done that, you as a manager or a leader, you get a chance to sit down with that group and really dig down deep, ask some great questions about how they came to this consensus, how did they work through the process, and you start to learn a lot about the individuals that you have in those groups. And let's face it, we all like to be considered smart and focused and ethical. And when we're asked to be part of a committee to overcome a challenge, that's a bit of an honor. And that's the way most of the guys in the field and our dispatchers and our salespeople, they all look at it that way. If we decided to do something as simple as a touch point analysis where we break down a service call from the time the call was placed into dispatch to the time we got paid on it, if we put together a team to be able to put that together, it would be a tremendous asset for all of us. And measure the results of these little committees. Measure the results that your team has provided for you. And you as a leader or manager or a supervisor or whatever your job might be, you should take great pride in the fact that your people were able to come up with some tremendous solutions and actually come up with some things that are going to make the company better and more focused, and at the same time they had a little bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the big thing too. And hey, when we're tackling these new processes and looking for these efficiencies, let's have a good time while we're doing it. You're going to get better results out of your team.
The other thing that we're looking for, ladies and gentlemen, is we want this interactive focus team. We need to reward innovation. Ask people to think of things, that simple things that they're doing that we could do better. Encourage feedback, and I don't consider it criticism. I consider it feedback. When people come in and say, "Hey, Woody, I haven't seen you in a while. You haven't been out to the jobs. You haven't visited the clients. What's going on with you?" I want people to come back and give me that feedback. I want other people to accept that feedback in a positive way for what it is. We want to encourage new ideas. I worked for a company in the Washington, D.C. area that and they had companies in Washington, D.C., Florida, North Carolina, and Boston. And they would bring every project manager, and this was mainly a construction team, but they would bring every project manager, every salesperson, every service manager to one place once a year, and they would look for people who had come up with great ideas and just recognize them and do some tremendous things for those folks. But what that does is, for the next year, now if you were one of the people that maybe didn't have an idea or didn't give the feedback, now maybe you're a little focused on doing things better, smarter, quicker, faster, better. And if you were able to do that, then you get a little more recognition. We want to encourage better focus on internal and external customers. I think most everyone knows what internal and external customers are, so I'm not going to go into that. But the fact of the matter is, we need to take care of our people in-house, along with our, excuse me, the customers that pay us every day. We need to make sure that we are looking for ways to include our internals as much as our externals. We talked about developing small groups. Find ways that the entire team gets involved. And it doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with work. Maybe you're eyeballing, "Hey, listen, guys, I'm looking for an opportunity to set up a golf tournament for our clients. Who wants to serve on the committee?" Okay, that's great. And then celebrate everything together. Don't just point out the 2 or 3 guys that maybe brought the job in on time and under budget, but we want to celebrate with everyone.
Yeah, and I think one of your earlier points here is something that resonates with us over here at BuildOps as well. Is we want every individual team member to take ownership, right? Own your process, own 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 the team that you're working with, right? Own that, and make sure that there's a culture where you can communicate these ideas and this feedback upstream without sort of fear of getting your hand slapped. There's
Right,
kind of two types of managers. Yeah, when you come in with feedback, it's either, "Hey, thanks for that feedback. That's awesome. Let's see what we can do with that." Or, "Hey, I already need that." Right. And you could have already known it. It's just how it's how the culture is.
right,
Because if you it's systemic, because once you kill that drive from folks
right.
to improve their process and bring this information up to you, you're now going to lose visibility on what's really going on. And they're
Yeah,
only going to tell you what they want to hear, or excuse me, what they think you want to hear.
that's
And
right, Justin.
and
The
that's dangerous.
100%.
It's very, very dangerous if you get into a culture like that. So always, please, please, even if it's not the best feedback, at least thank them for giving that feedback. Let them know that their voice is being heard, because that way, you won't lose some of those good opportunities to make some process changes that really have a big impact at the company.
That's exactly right. These are a few ideas that I've taken from some of my friends in the industry that just have been, really great drivers of innovation and focus, and really lit that spark underneath everybody, to be able to try to do a better job. Uh, Work for a company that used to have an employee of the month every year, and it was voted on by the peers. Now, what happened with this is you got a nice plaque of all of the nice things that your coworkers said about you, probably got a couple $100, no big deal. But the big thing that was what everybody wanted was there was always a parking spot set up that right at the front of the building that said, this is for the employee of the month, Justin or Woody or whatever. And man, you got to park right up front, and throw your chest out proud and walk up there and say, yeah, I'm employee of the month. Change of season is always a great time to celebrate. And don't just come in with some drinks, sodas, and a cake. But man, if you're going to have a celebration for springtime, man, bring out baseball pennants and all sorts of anything that is focused on that particular part of the year, fall of the year, all of those kinds of things. Make it a bit of a celebration. It doesn't mean that you stop working during this. It's just that you're having a little bit of a celebration. Birthdays, anniversaries, customer satisfaction letters, job well done, anything special, anything you can celebrate. Produce a newsletter to make sure that and share that on your website, and make sure that newsletter goes out to all of your customers, all of your internals and external customers. Make sure it goes out to everyone that's part of the team, so that everyone can recognize and congratulate whoever is being recognized. The other piece of it too is we used to send a letter home. Like if I were to do a good job, they would send a letter home to my wife and my kids and say, hey, you're not going to believe what your better half did this year. He did a tremendous job, and it worked tremendously too when we had sales quotas, because I would send a little chart that said where they stood on the sales quota end, and the significant other would say, what the heck are you doing? We want one of those color TVs or whatever it is that you're giving away. So it's always nice to share that information and make sure that you're celebrating as much as you can celebrate. Make it fun. It's I guess the key word is just keep it fun.
Yeah, and I think that last point's a good one in there as well, because each of your employees have their own support structure, usually with a significant other back at home. And depending on the time of the year, if we're in the busy season and things are hot or things are cold and things are breaking and we got to be out there, your employees are going to be working long hours. And
That's right.
it goes a long way to sort of reducing the friction that they have at home. If you reach out to their significant other and thank them for their help, because while we're out there banging out RTU units, they're at home making sure everything's running smoothly there.
Yeah.
And they have their own jobs and their own work too, so they're getting some extra work, and in that busy season as well. I think that goes a long way, and that's one thing that I've seen personally help out a ton. Right? It's like, you and I, Woody, we travel a lot.
Yeah.
And when we can't bring the family along with us, they're stuck at home to sort of fend for themselves more or less. And
Yep.
with that said, I've had managers and owners that I've worked for in the past send flowers, right? And
Yeah.
been hey, I know I'm pulling Justin out for the next 3 days. Super sorry. Here's some flowers. Here's a gift card.
Yep.
$15 for some reason. $15 gift card to the significant other is worth like $15,000 as far as like credit in the bank. When it comes to things like that.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, part of all of this also is the fact that from time to time, we're going to run into some challenges, some things that aren't going the way we would like to see them go. And maybe there's some atmospheres or some associations, groups, cliques, whatever you want to call it, that are there within our company. We need to take action with that type of thing pretty quickly, Justin. If you get the feedback from somebody that there's a bit of a toxic environment or a clique or something that's causing a toxic environment, we need to find out and get to the bottom of that pretty quickly. Do something as fast as you can, address it. And I'm not saying jump overboard and fire people or anything like that, but I think as a leader or a manager, we need to understand where that's coming from and what we have to do or what we can do to mitigate those types of things. Um, Things like that, the toxic environment or the cliques or whatever you want to call it, uh, they have a way of growing pretty quickly if we don't focus in on what's happening and try to find answers for it. So we can't ignore it. We've got to focus on it. We got to get it taken care of, and we've got to address it in an expeditious manner. That's for sure, Justin. You were talking about earlier the significant others and the importance of them. That's where knowing people, that's where having those conversations and focusing in on what's important to them, that's where that all comes in. And if we're doing that, we'll be okay. That's for darn sure, Justin.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to your point, we gotta I've seen toxic people infect an entire department quicker
Yeah,
than you would ever realize. And it's one of those things you got to keep your eye out for. You got to stay on top of it. Woody's a little bit nicer than I am. I say fire him right there. You cut him, depending on what state you're in. Make sure you do your HR homework, right? We're not an
yeah,
HR consultant here, but
right.
put boots to butts and get them out the door because there's no room for that within
Yeah,
your organization. And I don't care how good they are, right? It's if I rather have I rather ship them out and have somebody with a better attitude in that spot
yeah,
to help grow the team in a positive way. So we'll talk about some takeaways.
yep, yep. I'm here to preach to anybody that'll listen. Fun is not a bad word. I used to work for some managers that if we were standing out close to the coffee machine, laughing a little bit or having some fun, telling a joke, he would come out there and break it up in a heartbeat. Um, I believe the more interaction, palling around, fun that your people are having, the more they're going to enjoy coming to work on a regular basis. We've got to create ways to enjoy work, specifically in our environment, in the office. It's hard to do because we deal in a reactive business. That's what service is. But we try to make it as proactive as we possibly can. And one of the things we have to do is make sure that we infuse our daily lives with as much fun as we possibly can. And that doesn't mean just the office. We have to infuse and share that fun with our clients as well. And we've got to get creative and find ways to do that. Make sure that one of the things you could do is encourage interactive competitions between the sales guys and maybe the technicians. Maybe you set up a bowling match and get out there and see who scores the best bowling score. A simple smile, just a pleasant greeting, just hey, how you been? What's going on? How's your family? All of those kinds of things are important for us as leaders and managers. Listen, listen, listen. Take notice of what's important to everybody, because that's what our job is. Set the great example of a good leader as far as interacting with your people, talking about things, making sure that we're positive as positive can be, and stay away from the negative stuff. The negative stuff is handled behind closed doors, not out in the open where other people need to hear it. You take care of the negative stuff behind closed doors, like I said. Positive stuff is out there for everybody. I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, share a quick story for you. And I know we're getting close on our time, but I just wanted to share this quick story for you. My daughter was graduating from high school, and as the students were going across the stage, the vice principal would read off all of the things that the kids had done, volleyball, basketball, soccer, whatever they had participated in. Sitting behind me were some great friends of my wife's and ours, and as his daughter was going across the stage, they named off probably 6 or 7 great things that she had done over the 4 years. And I heard him lean over to his wife, and he said, "I had no idea she had done all of that." Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that broke my heart to hear that that man had not been engaged with his family, the people that he's supposed to love more than anyone in the world, that way. I can't imagine how engaged he is at work with his coworkers and his employees and the people that he works with, because that's where we need to be, ladies and gentlemen. We need to be engaged. We need to be there in those moments. And those moments, in my mind, not just for internal customers and external customers, but for everybody, that's what creates what our life actually becomes. Is how we interact with people, how we focus and help people and make a difference in one way or another. So I'm off my soapbox and I'm back again. So anyway, that's what I have
Yeah.
to say about the bad stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I really, I really appreciate Woody, everything that you sort of brought in here today. And the rest of the rest of the attendees do as well. I kind of want to leave the group with this. This is actually a note that just came in from one of the participants today. Woody really wanted to share it with you. It said, "Hey, thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate the recommendations. I've now been reinvigorated to up my game around employee retention. That's where really what it's all about." So, Woody, really appreciate all the insights that you were able to share with the team today. Appreciate everybody's time out there. BuildOps is one of those platforms that, because it's cloud-based, because it's portable, you don't have to slip behind on work while you're spending time with your family. It gives you that flexibility to manage your jobs, close out that information, get the technicians home just a little bit quicker because we're routing them a little bit more efficiently. So, Woody, anything
Yeah.
else you want to leave for the
Hey,
group before
I
we wrap
just
up?
want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. It was great spending some time with you. And Justin, we've done a lot of these together. I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much.